Warren here again with the Peach State Prime Transformers channel, and today we're actually taking a very special look at a set of 3 exclusives, not all released at the same time, but these were exclusives released to Universal Studios theme parks. For those that don't know, Universal Studios, here in the United States, it's Orlando and Hollywood, are home to Transformers The Ride 3D, which, as the name suggests, is a dark ride where you're in a motion vehicle that moves along a track. And, 3D glasses on, and you go from scene to scene, and they're like big, they're almost the size of IMAX screen, so it kind of immerses you in the story of the Transformers live action franchise, the Michael Bay movies, specifically within the realm of the first 3 films, which would be Transformers 2007, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. Excuse me there. Anyways, ride's very fun. I am, of course, having grown up with G1 and all that, that's always going to be my go-to, always my favorite. The movies, were hit and miss. They had some good parts in every movie, some bad parts, some good overall films, some bad overall films. But it's all personal preference. They brought in new fans to the franchise. So they are what they are. And the ride is no exception. It is a very fun ride, whether you're a fan of the films or not. Now, I will say I've had the fortune to actually go to Universal Orlando twice while the ride's been open so far, and enjoyed it multiple times both trips. Now, along with these attractions at these Universal theme parks also comes exclusive merchandise. And that's something that we're going to take a look at here. Again, I have 3 items. This is by no means comprehensive. There's new stuff coming out all the time. They have exclusive t-shirts. You got, hats, lanyards, magnets, buttons, if I didn't say that already. They even have plushies there. And they've had a few toys over the years. Most of the toys they have now are toys that have been, usually it's mostly, last time I was there, variations of live action Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, about the deluxe sizes. They have a slightly different decos and again, slightly different packaging. But they started off with 2 exclusive molds there. And we're going to take a look at one of them first. So hope you'll stick around, and we'll take a look at these Universal items. Alright, so our first offering we're looking at is EVAC. This is one of the exclusive molds that was available at Universal Studios. You can see this is the first version of the exclusive packaging. Of course, you had the Transformers logo in the movie font, followed by Universal Studios. And if you're not familiar, excuse me, with the story of the ride, EVAC is the ride vehicle that you're on as you're on your mission within the ride itself. I have never opened mine, and I'm glad I have not, because they no longer sell this guy, which is a real shame. Hasbro made this mold exclusively for Universal Studios and never released it anywhere else. You get a better look at him on the back here. So this is the ride vehicle. Now, there's no window when you're actually on the ride. So that's more of a, on the ride you pretend it's either a really clear window or force field. And then again, you got a nice shot of the robot mode there. And what it says on the back, if you can't read it, I'll read it aloud. It says, EVAC is used to dodging laser fire. His entire life, Decepticons have gotten in his way and tried to stop him. They've never succeeded. No matter how overwhelming their attack, EVAC knows that with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee covering him, nothing will stop him from delivering his passengers safely. Which, you know, in the ride, again, you're his passengers. So again, a very nice toy, you know, using that movie, type sculpting, a movie aesthetic with the mold itself. You know, it is a deluxe class. For comparison, I do have the original movie, the 2007 movie Jazz here. I figure would give Jazz some spotlight since he does not get to appear in the ride due to his fate in the first movie. Spoiler alert. But you can see he scales pretty well. I mean, EVAC's up a little bit in the packaging here, but they do scale rather well together. So EVAC would look great on the shelf, loose as well, but I just like the exclusive packaging, so I just left them in there. The other mold that was exclusive to Universal Studios in terms of EVAC here is that there was a Legends class EVAC as well. It started off as an exclusive at Universal Studios, but was ultimately released. It had wide release. It is a little bit more sought after because it is one of the only two molds for this character. We did get some Creo figures that were also sold at Universal Studios. If you remember Creo, that it was basically Hasbro's version of Lego minifigs. But again, just a really cool figure here, and hopefully they bring them back in some form, because there's nothing like riding a Transformers ride, stepping off of it, and then going in the gift shop and buying an actual transforming figure of your ride vehicle. So hopefully Universal and Hasbro take note and they establish some sort of additional partnership here. Now, when you think of theme parks, movie theaters, and all that, you got to ask yourself, what's the biggest trend right now in merchandise? And if you guessed correctly, you would have guessed popcorn buckets. So this and our next item is going to be both popcorn buckets and more recent offerings. This here, of course, is live action movie universe Bumblebee. Very cool popcorn bucket, very tall. We'll do some comparisons here in just a minute. But I'll give you a quick, without my little turntable here, I'll just kind of show you around. So lots of nice details, even on the back of the head here. That is a battery compartment with a screw, and I'll show you what that's for here in just a moment. Kind of a stylized, kind of a cartoonish version of the body. Does have articulation. Both the arms move, and then, of course, both the legs move as well. You can kind of have him stomp along here. As far as what the batteries are for, if you push this yellow Autobot symbol on his forehead, it does light up the eyes quite a bit. I think that would light up an entire room. It's a little blinding at first. I believe those are LEDs. If not, they're awfully darn close. Of course, the head sculpt is very reminiscent of movie Bumblebee, and they did a great job there. You even got his antennas at the top. They also give you this great big strap, so you can walk around the park wearing it like, yeah, I'm something big, I'm somebody. Just like all popcorn buckets are at Universal and Disney. And then you do have this nice thick strap that I was just talking about. So it does have the modern Transformers logo. You got Bumblebee's head. You got the little Bumblebee, the air freshener logo from the first movie, Autobot logo, and I think this is a stylized traffic light. Of course, your, copyright information there. But it is adjustable, which is nice. So, for kids and adults alike. And the one thing I haven't shown you yet is where the popcorn goes. The popcorn does go in his head. You'll see there's this little latch here. You simply just pull up. And you can either set a small popcorn container down in there or fill his head full of buttery goodness, which might be difficult to clean up afterwards. Hopefully you're going to hang on to this thing for a while as a keepsake. But that is the Bumblebee Popcorn Bucket. Before we move on to the next one that I have, I do want to do a couple comparisons for you. So I wanted to use one of the many, probably hundreds of live-action Bumblebee toys. Excuse me. I went with my favorite, which is Human Alliance Bumblebee. I think this came out for Revenge of the Fallen. I'd have to look that up. Kind of similar in size and scope as an alternator. But you can see, you know, the yellow on this Bumblebee is a little bit more goldish. Versus the flat kind of mute yellow or pastel yellow on the popcorn bucket here. The other thing I did want to show, and I already featured this in another video, but I thought it made for some great comparisons here, and that is the standard size Rise of the Beast Bumblebee pop figure. The colors are a bit closer on the popcorn bucket to the pop figure. Plus, the thing I really wanted to point out is this was a big thing when I was talking about the pop figures, is once again, the design team behind this popcorn bucket went with that flat yellow Autobot symbol on his forehead, just like they did on all the Funko Pop figures. Whereas we look at like the Human Alliance toy, that Autobot symbol is red. And, you know, different eras, different movies within the live-action franchise are being represented. However, I still don't know what I like better. If I like the plain yellow or if, you know, I like it red. Now, of course, you know, it is a cost thing. You know, the Human Alliance Bumblebee figure was a little bit more of a premium offering when it came out. Excuse me, versus a theme park souvenir. You know, for popcorn, that's a kind of a fun, big, bulky thing to take home with you. And then, of course, you know, the pop figure. Because there's no other red on these figures, or, again, the Human Alliance. Well, I take that back. You got the brake lights on the Human Alliance. So, you know, leave a comment in the comments what you think. Red or yellow Bumblebee forehead Autobot insignia. Alright, then I said I have a second popcorn bucket, and this one's my favorite. It is none other than Grimlock. Now, this is not just Grimlock. This is G1 classic original Grimlock. And, which I think is just awesome. Obviously, you know, he's, you know, shortened down a little bit, stylized a little bit, so that he can, in fact, you know, be a popcorn bucket. But this thing, for what it is gorgeous. When I was on my trip and I saw this there, I had to buy it immediately. You got the chrome. You see it even reflecting the light here. You have the classic chrome arms. You got the chrome teeth, that flat gray plastic. You even have, of course, the classic Autobot symbol in the middle here. That's red and white. You even have the clear plastic here, which is very reminiscent of the original toy. We go to the back here. You even have the hinges that would indicate him transforming into robot mode. You even have some of the, you know, the different colors symbolizing the stickers there. This is, again, more clear plastic, just very, very awesome. This one actually has a couple additional features from, the strap gets in the way, from the Bumblebee Popcorn Bucket. First off, his eyes do light up. You light them up by pressing this little button on top of his snout. And you'll see the first thing they light up is red. However, so that's toy accurate to the original G1 toy. Then if you push it again, it becomes G1 cartoon accurate with the blue eyes. So somebody did their homework on this one. That's completely awesome. And then the second action feature is actually if you push the side, like his cheek over here, his mouth does open. And you just pull it down a little bit. And you can see he actually has a blaster inside of his mouth, almost like he's breathing fire, shooting a laser. So he has two light up features. One that changes color, one that actually moves, physically moves on the figure here. Or popcorn bucket. See, it's so... there's so many bells and whistles on this thing. I'm calling it a figure, not a popcorn bucket. Then, of course, you know, to turn off that light, you just close his mouth and you push the button on his snout again to turn those off. Which is, again, just... I couldn't believe it when I saw it, just how much this thing did. This one does have a strap as well for you to, you know, carry around the park, just like Bumblebee. However, this one is skinnier, and it doesn't have anything specific to Grimlock. It just says Transformers and has the Autobot logo. Now, as far as where you put actual popcorn, that is going to be his bat component here, which... gonna have to figure out how to open again because it's been a while. Okay, it pulls down from the up position. So again, you can fill, you know, this with greasy, buttery popcorn, or just stick a, you know, a container in there, one of the smaller containers, which is what I recommend because you don't want to mess this guy up. But, you know, may not hold a ton of popcorn, but that's okay. He doesn't need to. He's the king after all. Hey, get this strap out of the way. He is a little posable. You know, the legs do move. The arms do move. Yeah, I moved the legs the wrong way. The arms do move from side to side and back and forth. So you got a little posability there. Comparisons, which, yes, we're going to compare it to the original G1 Grimlock. This was just the perfect comparison for me. So you can see there's definitely some design cues taken here from the chrome tail. You have the feet are reminiscent of each other. You even have this little circle right here represented on the side of Popcorn Bucket Grimlock's legs. Again, you have that clear plastic that's right here represented on both the front and the back of the Popcorn Bucket, albeit slightly different, but, you know, you have these two almost what look like rocket boosters on both represented, you know, the hinge where he would transform, you know, just a completely awesome homage. And again, that jaw spring does get a little stuck, but I'll forgive them for that. You know, the arms are held out exactly the same. They're both chrome. You know, my G1 figure, of course, is a little worn. But just completely awesome there. And then I would be remiss if I didn't compare the Popcorn Bucket to the original Masterpiece Grimlock, which, in my opinion, is the masterpiece of all masterpieces. I'll go more into that in a future video, but he is my favorite Masterpiece figure. I could go on and on about him. But again, you know, so you got that blue eyes on the Masterpiece, so we'll copy that with the Popcorn Bucket. You know, you have the cheek panels represented. Again, the chrome arms and tail and the clear portions. The Autobot logo is nice and bright on both of them. You got the chrome teeth. You know, again, they both have that circular design on the legs there, or the calves, whatever, not calves, but, you know, top of your leg there. Thighs, that's what I'm looking for. But just knocked it out of the park with this popcorn bucket. And then for size comparison for both of the popcorn buckets, I recently acquired and did a video on Nova Prime from Generations, from Legacy to be specific. So I wanted to give you a look at what a leader class looks like next to these popcorn buckets. Again, just you see the sheer size of these things. I mean, they always surprise you in person just how dang big they are. Even at a movie theater when they get special popcorn buckets. Bumblebee is a little taller than Grimlock, but again, Grimlock does have the additional electronic features, so, you know, it kind of makes up for it. But you can see, you know, they both, especially Bumblebee, but they both kind of dwarf Nova Prime, or really any leader class figure you'd compare them to here. So here's your group shot of the three, I'd say the three pieces of merchandise, or 2 popcorn buckets and figure we looked at today. We'll just say the 3 Universal exclusives that we looked at today. Again, they're not all available all the time. I'm not sure if Grimlock's still there. I know Bumblebee's still there. This past summer, I picked up Grimlock. My parents actually picked up these two. They picked this one up, I believe earlier this year. And then, about a month ago. And then, the Universal, the EVAC here, they got for me a few years ago, right after it first came out. They took a trip there. And I'm glad they did, because I never saw it in person at the gift shop. One thing I do want to say that's kind of interesting note is, while the ride, and they do have a meet and greet there that's very, very popular. It's always all over social media, between Optimus, Bumblebee, and Megatron. All of that is based on the live action movies. So that, you know, so with that in mind, you would expect to see a lot of, you know, exclusively live action movie merchandise. However, when you walk into the gift shop or other places in and around Universal Studios, especially Florida, you actually see probably 80% G1 or Evergreen, as we're now calling it, inspired merchandise, which is strongly how Grimlock came to be here. So that's an interesting trend. I've even seen Smash Pennies in a Smash Penny machine that were G1. So it is really cool that they show so much G1, or again, that evergreen look. I would actually love, you know, as the movies continue to age and new movies are made, new continuities are out there, I would actually love to see them change Transformers The Ride 3D into a more evergreen aesthetic. You know, not necessarily all G1, but, you know, G1, you know, simplified, kind of that the Authentics line that we see out there. A lot of the more kids lines, just, you know, kind of like the Spider-Man ride, which I say the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which is at Islands of Adventure at Universal Orlando. Because you usually see the exact same ride system. The track layout is a little different. But, you know, that Spider-Man ride, it doesn't, you know, reflect any one show, comic, movie, but it's Spider-Man. You look at it, you know it's Spider-Man. And that's what I'd love to see them do with Transformers The Ride 3D in the future, when it comes time for that extensive refurbishment. You know, and the queue that you go through is, you know, very much it's Nest from the movies. You know, you could easily, you know, repaint that area, you know, repaint like Transformers. You could repaint that into looking like the Ark or just a generic Autobot base. And of course, you could stylize, you know, EVAC here, your ride vehicle, just a little bit to meet the needs of that. So, and then maybe get another toy. You know, you never know. But I'd love to see that. All right, so that is our look at some of the Universal exclusive items that I've collected over the years. Now, I do want to say, you know, these are the two popcorn buckets that I'm familiar with. If there's one I missed, like let's say there's one that looks like Optimus or Bumblebee's head, you know, share that in the comments. Maybe I overlooked it. And then, you know, I was familiar with the two EVAC molds, transforming molds that were exclusive. If I missed something, again, let me know. I know that there was a Megatron that started off there as exclusive that I believe it was a Japanese mold that ended up getting released, you know, wide released. But if I'm wrong about any of that, let me know kindly in the comments, please. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, again, a little bit more interesting video. You know, one of the, you know, absolute must-dos if you're ever at Universal Hollywood or Orlando. I know that some of the other, I know Universal Japan has the ride as well, and I think maybe Singapore. I'm sorry, I'm not super up on my international Universal parks. And I know one of them has their own whole Transformers land with a retheme of the Hulk coaster from Islands of Adventure even. But again, you know, all that information's out there. Feel free to take a look. But again, I hope you like looking at these three items. If you did, please leave a like on this YouTube video. And again, leave a comment with your thoughts, anything I said already, or just in general, you know, what do you think of the ride at Universal? And of course, subscribe for more content on Transformers, whether it's, you know, on toys and merchandise, or just some general thoughts that are out there. And of course, I have my other channel, which is just called Peach State Prime. It's all sorts of fun here in and around the Atlanta area, you know, whether it be events, attractions, toy hunting, all sorts of fun stuff there, and I encourage you to check that out as well. But anyways, I've rambled on enough. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.